All right, let's go ahead and get started. People come in. Just shut the door here. Welcome to the. We're winding down now. We've got one more month after this, but we've gotten through the C scale. Most of us. We've navigated the most difficult scale. No, we've navigated the easy scale, which is just C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, A, B, C. And what I want to do tonight is I want to expand to four-part harmony. We did this on Monday with the kids, and I think I may have alluded to it a little bit last time we were together. I'm also going to explain to you the circle of fifths. So I'm just going to give this over to the Lord prayer. Lord, thank you for allowing us to be here to learn about your creation, Lord, your great gifts that you give us, and music being one of the most beautiful things that you've given us to appreciate and to learn about. And that's what we're going to try to do tonight, Lord, for your glory. In Jesus' name. So we have this C scale. And I remember last time when Kathy was here, she brought up a very good point, and I want to emphasize this every time we talk about that theory, is when we're talking about the horizontal aspect of music going like this and going da-da-da-da-da-da-da on the scale or whatever the notes happen to be. We're also talking about the vertical aspect of music, which is when notes are playing at the same time, and that's what harmony is all about. What I want you to really keep in mind is that when I'm talking about the numbers in the scale system, it's different than when I'm talking about the numbers of what comprises the chord. When we're actually talking about making the chord, like let's say in the key of C, I want to make the 4 chord. Well, when I say F, F is like the 1. It's the 1 when I'm talking about the chord, not when I'm talking about its designation in the scale, but when I'm talking about actually creating the chord. So there's a differentiation there, number-wise, that we're using. And we talked about using the triadic system, which means every third note of the scale. So like to make the C, it was C, E, G. To make the D, E, F, A. Every third note. That's how, in our music system, we create chords. Now, a chord is 3 different tones, not 2. Two different tones don't make a chord. It's what's known as either an interval or a dyad. Not a triad. So even, yeah.
So would power chords just be a guitar term?
Yes, power chords is a guitar, pretty much a guitar term, which usually means roots and fives. What he means by power chords is like guitarists use distortion to play. I know that distortion generally is not something that's favorable in music, but in the guitar world, it's a very desirable thing. It's the way that it. In other words, if you just hit a note on the guitar like without having distortion, it sounds kind of pure like this. But if you add distortion to it, it creates sustain. And it creates the note being longer. And what's happening actually is the note is actually going from a sine wave to a square wave. If that means anything to you in physics, that's what's happening to it. Like so. The question was about power chords, and so that power chords are usually perfect intervals, like the 1 and the 4, the 1 and the 5. So you can play those together, and you won't get a lot of noise happening. If you play distortion with like the 1 and the 3, or the 1 and some other note, a person knows this too, right? It sounds kind of, power chords sound good when it's like a root and 5 or root and 4, which are perfect intervals. So anyway, so yeah. So power chords, exactly. It's 1s and 5s generally. It can be 1 and 4 too. But those aren't chords. So what I did here is I made this graph, and I think this makes it also is going to illustrate for you too what I'm talking about when I'm saying that when the line goes through and we play the line and the line sings C, D, F, G, A, B. Look at what's happening on the next third. You see what's happening here? It's going E, F, G, A, B, C, D. So this is also the scale that's happening on top of this scale. So everything is interrelated. It's not just, oh, we just have things that are horizontal and things that are vertical. These are also, this is also making a melody. It just happens to be making a third higher than this. So as the C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C is playing, so is the E, F, G, A, B, C. And then on the next third, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. See, when you freeze this, that's a C chord. You freeze it here, that's a D minor chord. You freeze it here, it's a E minor, and so on. And we probably know this by now, but in the intervallic system that we use, C is a major chord, and the next chord is a minor chord. So D is minor, and here E is minor. We know that because our system was whole tone, half tone, whole tone, half. And whenever we use that for the major scale, this is what happens. F, G, A is minor, and our friend here is diminished. It's the one strange chord out of the lot. It's neither minor nor major, it's called diminished. And the creation of these chords is because when we went from the C to the E to create our very first chord, this was the interval of the major third. And when we went to the next third, that's a minor third. So whenever we make a major chord in root position, meaning that it's starting from the note that it's called from, it's always a major third, and then it's a minor third, and that creates what we know as the major chord. It's the interval of a major third from C to E, and the interval from E to G, which is a minor third, which creates a major sounding chord. C, that's a major third, that's a minor third, C chord. Now, to illustrate what's on there right now, is this is the way, we're just talking about you. Great question you asked us. So, chord 2, minor, chord 3, chord 4, chord 5, chord 6, chord 7, and the octave. So, and it's very easy for even people that don't play an instrument, if you're visualizing this, if you can just see the piano keyboard, it's all the white keys. I'm not going anywhere outside of the white keys. C, E, G, D, F, A, E, G, B, F, A, C, G, B, D, A, C, E, B, D, F, C, G. And because we're using that formula, right here, whole tone, half, whole tone, half, that's the chords we come up with. That law, the law of whole tone, half, cannot be broken when you're working with the C major scale. If you do, if you go to a note that's outside of C major, then you're doing what we call modulating. And you're going outside of the chord. You're going to a non-diatonic tone. Diatonic means that it resides in the scale. All of these notes are diatonic to the key of C.
So is the first column where you call it the key, like the second line, is going to be the first one there, so it's the key of E?
No, this is all in the key of C right now. What this is right here is the intervals that make up the C chord.
Oh, you're going down?
Yes,
Okay.
like that.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's the vertical aspect.
Okay.
Yeah.
So would be a C, E, B be a major chord, and then a C,
C, E, G.
C, E, G would be a minor chord?
No, C, E, G is a major chord.
Okay, so what would be a minor chord, C, E, B?
DFA is a minor chord.
Okay, so there's no C minor.
There is a C minor, right, but we're not working with that scale right now.
Okay.
There are C minors. Yeah, and there are major scales where C minor occurs naturally. So, A flat, for instance, the C is it's a minor chord. So yes, but in this scale system, it's not. We're gonna go over a couple of different scales too, just so that you can see how they relate to each other.
The D minor again?
Yes.
What makes that minor? What changed?
This step between D and F is only 3 half steps. It's
Oh, I
not two whole steps. It's a whole step and a half. That's what makes it minor. That interval between D and F is a minor third. and then the interval between F and A is a major third. So in order to make a minor chord, you combine a minor third and a major third, the exact opposite of what you do to make a major chord, which is a major third and a minor third for root position.
And the minor was the diminished.
That's the diminished, right?
So the D to the F is a minor?
Yes, correct. Because the distance between D and F is a minor third. This right here, I'll just write it here, that's a minor third. And the distance between F and A is a major third.
Would I be right in understanding that in some of these major chords, there would be some sharps?
No, not in the key of C. Yeah, and the reason for that is, that's a good question, but the reason that there isn't is because the key of C is no sharps and no flats. In the circle of fifths, it's all the white keys on a keyboard. So when we're following our formula, every note that we do to harmonize the C major scale only happens on the white keys. So there's no sharps or flats in that one.
So what happens then, because I'm still, I haven't gotten up to the rule of fifths, whatever that is
Oh.
yet. But in the, if you started with E as the root,
Yes.
what would be the,
Oh, if you start with E on an E major scale, you would have lots of sharps. Yes,
Okay.
you'd have 4. Right. Because the distance, when you're starting with E then, you have to remember to follow the formula, whole tone, half, whole, half. And here right away, when you look at E, you notice right away that E and F is only a half step. It's got to be a whole step. So automatically that becomes a sharp. Next thing, then F sharp going to G is a half step, so that has to become a sharp. Do you see how that works?
yes.
In order to fulfill that mathematical part of it, it has to be like that. So E, all of a sudden, we'll learn this in the circle of fifths too, because E wants to sound just like a C chord except in a different pitch, it has to have 4 sharps in it.
So I still don't understand, the way, how you know from E to F
Is a half step?
I have to see the keyboard
Yeah.
to see the, I mean, I can
Right.
show when I'm on the keyboard. but
That's actually,
abstract here.
right, it's actually general. Between E and F,
Yeah, okay.
and B and
I see that.
C, yeah. B and C, E and F are naturally occurring half steps. There's no, if you look at them, there's no black key.
Right, yes, when
Right.
I'm looking at it, but
Yes.
when I'm.
Right, oh
I
yeah.
have to come in to that.
Yeah, you just, well, I'll hasten to
I'm on the
say
keyboard,
that.
I know.
Yes, because you can see it and it's
Yes.
it's very visual thing. It actually works better than guitar does for that because guitar is just all frets. But you can actually see where the
Yeah.
whole steps and the half steps are in the keyboard. And at any time, other than those 2 places, when you're going from white key to white key, it's a whole step, except from E to F and from B to C.
In fact, you see the same thing here.
Yeah. So yeah, so the question about the sharps and flats, that all of that happens as a result of every one of our 12 notes in the chromatic scale. When we want to harmonize those as a major chord, as a major scale, they have to conform to our whole half. And in order to do that, that's where we enter the accidentals. And accidentals are either sharps or flats. That's probably a good point. We'll just do a little bit of that right now, because I wrote this out here in the circle of fifths. Sharps look like hashtags, flats look like lowercase b's. Generally when you sharp something, you're increasing it by a half step. So from F to F sharp is a half step. G to G sharp is a half step. And E to E flat is going down a half step. So generally, and I tend to look at it this way, this direction and this direction. The reason it's called a circle of fifths is because how this works out mathematically in music is that as you go up in fifths, this from C to G, by the way, is a fifth. C, D, E, F, G. G, A, B, D, G, A, B, C, D. D, E, F, G, A. Those are all fifths. The reason it's called a circle of fifths, even going this way, is that you're going down in fifths from here. Actually, when I look at it, when I used to look at it, I go, well, F to D flat, that's a fourth. But F to B flat going down is a fifth. So that's why it's called a circle of fifths. The flats go down in fifths, sharps go up in fifths. So every fifth, yeah, every fifth note, like when you go from C to G, you encounter your first sharp. Yes, and the first sharp that you always encounter when you're going in this direction is the sharp that's on the leading tone. So in the key of G, it's F. The reason is that if you took the G scale, go back to here, that'll be the next one that will harmonize here. I'm gonna just crouch a little bit. The G looks like this. And we give it numbers again. So, our first chord will be G, B, D, A, C, E. It'll all follow, it'll look exactly like this. Of course, the names will be different, but they're changed to protect the innocent. And now, all the chords are different, but the formula is still the same. That's still a major, that's a minor, that's a minor, that's a major, that's a major, that's a minor, that's a diminished, etc. It'll always work out that way. Now, here's what happens in the key of G. You have, everything works out. Right? In the C scale, that worked. All the white keys. It doesn't work anymore. F sharp. The leading tone. It's the next to the tonic. That's the only reason that the accidentals exist, is so that the formula can be completed with our system of music of using whole tone, half, whole tone, half. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay, great.
So far.
Yes, good, now, that's great. So here, so we got to one sharp, right here, key of G. Now if we go up another fifth, we're going to have two sharps. Now I'm going to play the key of D, which is really only a step away from C, but it has two sharps. So here's D. I'm going to play D the way I would play D in a C major scale. It would be like this. That's wrong, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't sound major at all. Right? There's another sharp, F, which we've already encountered.
Right.
Another sharp. C sharp. Correct. The leading tone sharp.
Because I can see.
Yes. Right.
I can see
And
that.
did you see that? Yeah.
Yeah, well,
I could.
She's up
No,
close.
no, 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 I can see it. I'm good. If I see it, I know what I'm doing.
Is that better?
Oh, better.
Yeah.
The rest of us can see
Can
it.
we tilt it differently?
Yeah. I know. It'd be great to have it up like
Yeah,
this
right.
and see it. Yeah.
Camera on the ceiling.
So we-
So we encountered the F right away when we did that because our F had to be sharp to make that a major third. And then the next one that we encountered was the C sharp because that's the leading tone. Now, when we get to A, you're still going to have F and C sharp in the key signature. And then what else? If it's the leading tone, that's the sharp G. So G will be your next sharp. Yeah, isn't that amazing how that works? Let me show you.
But in the flats, they're actually named.
Yes, that's correct. That's a good point. Yeah, they're actually in the key signature. Almost all of the sharp keys don't have the sharp in them until you get to F sharp. I'm going to do just a little bit of music notation here because I think it'll help. This is called a G clef or a treble clef. It usually has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I didn't do this correctly because on a G clef, the G, the G has to run through the scroll, which my script is horrible. Anybody can understand. What's that?
Left.
Oh, yeah. Good. All right.
Glad
So-
we're with you.
Oh, good. Thank you. And we all know maybe what the lines are and what the spaces are. Okay. Oh, you didn't know that?
No,
Every
it
good boy does
used to
fine.
take me forever to try to
Oh, to figure out?
calculate
Yeah.
where
Oh,
on
good.
the,
Well, good. This is, yeah. Well, this is the bottom line on the staff is E. The next line is G, B, E, F. I remembered it by every good boy does fine. And then just the word face is the spaces. And if you'll notice, it goes E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, just like that.
Except us guys usually have letters.
Yes, you did. Well, there are other clefs in the treble. There's a bass, there's many other clefs actually. There's
what would the bass clef be?
looks like this. And the difference is that middle C is right here in the bass, and it's right here. It looks like that, but it's below the bottom line here. So that the bass clef, you can obviously see, is for lower notes. Because middle C is way up here.
And so what would the arrangement of notes be on the lines?
Oh, so then you
Spaces
would
are A,
have,
C, G.
yeah, this would be A, C, E, G, and this would be G, B, D, F, A. That's how you read bass
All
clef.
cars and gas.
Yeah, I never figured one out for bass clef, but yeah, that's with the bass.
Good boys do fine holidays.
Yes.
Go, okay. There's a good one from Nicole.
Good
Good boys do fine always.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that's, and on a bass clef, just a little bit of like arcane.
F clef.
Yeah, it's called, that's right, it's the F clef, because the two dots are around the F line. And just like here, when I did this so poorly, this scroll would be around the G line.
And so the lowest note on a bass guitar, where would that show up?
That would be probably, here? Yeah, an octave below that. I think that's where it is. And guitar music, by the way, is notated in treble clef, but it sounds an octave lower than it's written. Guitar is actually what I would call a baritone instrument as far as like its voice. Even when you go way up high on a guitar, you're still only getting to like the middle area here on the piano. The piano can go much higher than that. So anyway, when you look at that and you see that key signature and it's in the key of G, it'll look like that. It'll have that hashtag right on the F, which means that every time you encounter F in the key of G, you've got to make sure it's sharped so that it stays diatonic to that system. And then just the way in D, have this guy, C sharp, sharp. And then in A, that will be sharp, which is the G line. That's the space above F. And then the next one, see this one, D. And that's the key signature for E major. Because you can actually extrapolate all this from going backwards. Like, if you see that I made the sharp on the D, you just have to go and say, well, the next half step up is E. Yeah.
When you did the G, you showed us the space above, but isn't the line
Yeah.
that's also going to be sharp if a note?
Yes,
Yes.
either one in the octave.
So
Yeah,
all of the Gs will
all the
be-
Gs.
okay.
They determined not to put it on the G line,
Right.
put it on the space above, but, and so on. That's how when you see that in the key signature, when you see these sharps like that, that's what they mean. They're saying we're either in this key or this key, so you have to realize that that's your tone center. That's from where you're starting. Go back here to the circle of fifths. And we got to A. And we had 3, and then we had F, C, and G for our sharps. And I'll just do one more here, which would be F, C, G, and D. You'll also notice, I mean, this is another way in that math is so, that music is so mathematical, in that the sharps always go up in fifths too when you're sharping. So F to C, F, C, G, F, C, G, D, F, C, G, D, A, like that. So in the key of B, you have 5 sharps, and the last sharp being on A. So now we'll just take a look at what's happening here in the other side of the world. You go down a fifth, you're in the key of F. Now F is very similar to C. Does that sound right? Ah, we're becoming astute. That's that guy right there.
That's sharp or flat?
Well, actually, it's a whole step. It should be a half step right there, and it's not. That's a very nice sound. That sound that I'm actually kind of particularly fond of, with that raised fourth. It's called a Lydian sound. It's one of the modes, but that's not what makes a major scale. So. F. Yes.
I like the trick you said, it's always a leading tone going up, which I didn't realize. Is there a trick going down?
Yes, we're gonna find that out together. Yeah. Because the first flat is on B flat, right, in the key of F, and that's actually on the fourth. So, yeah. Yes, it's different. It's a different world. Yes. Yeah. Just remember, the sharp keys always go up in fifths, and these keys always go down in fifths. You're thinking down. And the reason that it's a little more difficult, especially for guitar players, to remember flat keys, is that guitar players generally do not like to play in flat keys, and if they do, they're capable. Because the reason becomes obvious when you see that the guitar is tuned E, A, D, G, B, E. Almost all of those notes are open strings on the guitar in the sharp key. So it's actually almost a natural thing for guitar players to play in sharp keys because you have all of those open strings available to you. In F, no. B flat, I mean, unless you're capoing, no. E flat, not really. A flat's another miserable key for guitar players without a capo. And the reason is that you don't have that, what you're looking for in guitar when you're playing is to get the sustain and the ringing. And you unless you use a capo, you can't get that out of the flat keys. Well, I'll show you.
You have to bar.
Yeah. You're
Oh,
actually
yeah.
using bar chords instead. So, like, if you're playing an A flat, everything that I play in A flat would be. If we're playing in G. See the difference? How much ringier that is? That's what you're looking for. For me, anyway. I mean, some people play it like that. An electric guitar, it's not so difficult because you're using distortion a lot of times, and you're getting the sustain from the distortion. Acoustic guitar is a little bit different. So let's keep that in mind, that our first flat is on the 4, because this is going to be new to me too. I only recently discovered this about the sharp keys, but does that help?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. So then we have the 1 flat in the key of F that happens to be B flat. Then our next, down the 5th, is B flat. So B flat, and I'm going to be terrible at this because I really don't play keyboards, but oh, sorry. Can you tell?
You have to go to the flat for
Yes.
the last one.
So that's B flat, whole step, half step, and that.
You're in E flat.
Oh, I'm in E. See, I told you. That's how bad it is. Yes, I am. So that's why it didn't work out. So that's.
I bet.
I'm so ashamed. So B flat. It's B flat. I told you guitar players didn't like flat. So anyway, yeah. So that's where you're starting. B flat. That's C, D. What's the next one? E flat. Okay, which is our 4. So every new flat will be the fourth. Yes. Oh, do I have it? Yeah, yes, I will. Sure. From the flats?
Just for the B flat.
Okay.
On the keyboard,
Yes.
please.
Yes. B flat,
Yes.
whole tone, half tone, whole tone, whole tone, whole tone. So that, hey, we have a new formula here. So on the flats, depending on what the name of the key signature we're in this case F, the flat is on B flat, it's the fourth. Then you also will retain B flat for this, and add the fourth, E flat. So your two flats, B flat is a key signature with two flats in it. We'll have the flat on the B flat and the E flat. That's the two flats in B flat. And F, it was
I love that.
Yeah, I know, it's great, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, it's helping me. I wish I could transmit it onto that. So let's just guess what it would be in E flat. What's the fourth of E flat? Yeah. It's the next one
A
down.
flat?
Right, correct. So,
Is there a pattern?
yes, yes, there is actually. If you look at that, you're kind of proceeding as you're going down what the next flat's gonna be. So it is different mathematically, and so we all discovered something together here tonight, so that's right.
What did we discover?
Well, let me tell you.
Thank you.
B flat was what you.
Glad you asked me.
Yeah, you're writing all this stuff out.
Yeah, if you notice from like when we got to here, the B flat, if you notice the next key signature down is B flat. And how did it work?
Yeah, so
B
the
is-
one that's
So,
added to that one.
that's the one that's,
the E
that's,
flat.
yeah, the E flat is added for that. And then here we got to E flat, and we added A flat, which is the next one down. A flat will add D flat, which is the next one down. So that just shows, I would tend to think of it more like in fourths, but it's okay, however it helps you. However it helps. So, don't make me stay in flats too much. I'm kind of swimming. Now, so anyway, but let me,
From that.
what's that?
I have to think so that.
Okay,
So that
Yes.
Flats.
yeah, in other words,
Send it out.
let me try to make an analogy here. On the sharp keys, the leading tone always got the next sharp in the key that you're in. In the flat keys, we go on fourths. So the flat that's on F is B flat, then we always carry that over to the next key, just like we did here. And then the next fourth on that is E flat. So we go down to E flat, those two carry over, and the next flat is the 4, which is A flat, etc. And it goes down. So, I'll do just one more. I'll do it a smaller one. I try to do it a lot better than I did the last one. There, C to G.
Yeah.
Wow, how do I do it? So here, our first flat, that's the B line. So that goes right there. And our second guy, that's E line, E flat.
That's in there.
Yeah, B flat, E flat. Yeah, you're a bass player. Bass player, all open strings too. Yeah. So. You see how that works? It's fourths. B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, etc. Those are all fourths away from each other. Fourth being the interval of the fourth. So, like from B flat, you would go up from B flat. Find it, Nicole. Don't help me, I'll find it. Like that, those are fourths going up the keyboard. So the flat keys we generate through a system of fourths, the sharp keys through the leading tone going up in fifths. Does that make sense? If it doesn't, don't use it. Just memorize it. Yeah. Does it make sense?
But yes.
Okay.
I usually say.
Oh, that's okay, no. This is,
I'm still working on the major, the minor chord.
oh, okay. Well, just stay with the,
No, I'm okay with this.
You okay with this?
Yeah, it's just-
Circle of fifths? Okay.
So, this has to go back.
What exactly does circle of fifths mean, like precisely?
Just gives you your key signatures.
Okay.
Yeah. It's for key signatures. And it's also for what I'll just throw one more thing at you. It's also for what we call a relative minor. And I'm going to go back here to this scale degree, the scale system C, and tell you what I already know to be a fact, that the sixth scale degree in any major scale is what's also known as a relative minor. Okay. Yeah, these are
Sorry.
scale degrees.
I like the basic bit.
Yes, scale degrees.
Yeah.
That's okay, keep doing that because I want you to understand, I really do. So that's scale degrees, this is actual chord construction numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7, etc. Scale degrees right here. So the sixth scale degree in any major scale is the relative minor. What that means is, in practical terms, and for mainly for most classical music, is that if you see something written out in classical music and there's no sharps or flats in it, the greater chances is that it's in C major. But there's also the chance that it could be in A minor. It depends on what the home note feels to you. That's how you determine it. What your ending chord is, you see as it goes through. And a piece can modulate in a lot of different ways, but it's like when a classical composer composes something in a minor key, it has the feel of a minor to it. In other words, if it's an E minor, it could have just as well be in G because the key signatures are the same. But it has this sound to it. I'm not even saying those are the chords in it, but it has this as the tone center, not this. Although they share the same key signature. That's G. And this E minor. So the sixth minor is what's called the relative minor, and they actually, when you're writing a piece of music, if you want to write something in a minor key, like if you want to write something in D minor, like this, you would write it with one flat, because F and D minor are relative to each other. And that happens on every sixth degree of the scale, no matter what scale you're on. I had to throw that in there because that's on the circle of fifths. The
What
relative
about
minor.
like this A has
Yeah.
an F sharp? How
That's
do
right.
we know it has a sharp then?
Oh, because F sharp is already resident in the key of A.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, because,
it's the
It's in
sixth.
there,
Mhm.
okay.
It's the actual sixth of A major. Like if we went starting on A major here, it'd be A, B, C, D, E, F sharp would be the sixth. But because this is not the key of A major has 3 sharps, and the first sharp is on F.
okay,
And the sixth scale degree of A major is F sharp.
okay.
That's why F sharp minor shares 3 sharps in the key signature, just like A does. Mm-hmm. Look, I know, it's lots of stuff. It really is, and we're condensing this. I mean, when you learn this, when you're younger or when you go to college, you learn this over semesters. You know, it's kind of like, or if you took lessons your whole life, you kind of know when you come in here. It's just, you know it. It's not like you even have to think about it, you just know it. So what we're doing, a lot of us, is that we're actually learning this. You know, and it's hard. I'll first admit it, it's hard. But a lot of it is just memorization and then practical application. I can't stress that enough. If you can practically apply what you learn, it will really, really sink in. So there. So the next thing I'm going to do, what I want to do after we sort of like we've gone through all of the scale things, is I'm going to talk to you about are there any questions before I go on? Anything at all? But if there is, please stop me. I'm going to talk about chord inversions?
Can we reserve the right to come back to these questions
can.
another day?
Yes, you certainly can.
Like next time.
Oh, I'm learning about that, like our arpeggios on the
Yeah.
bass, about inverting the
Right.
formation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all inverting means is that, like in a C major chord, instead of C being the bottom note, the other two notes in the C chord can be the bottom note.
When
That's
you
all.
say bottom, you're saying the lowest.
The lowest note, the lowest sounding note of the chord. So, in the key of C, C,
But the other letters will still be there.
they'll all be there, they'll all be represented. I'm just gonna throw two things at you. Just inversion and voicing. These are different in my mind, although an inverted chord can have a different voicing, but what inversion does is it means which bass note in this chord is being used. If you see a chord that is written like this, or like this, that means that the bass note has changed. That now all of a sudden the 3, the E, is in the bass, or the 5 is in the bass.
So is the bottom always the bass? Because
Yes.
I've seen that so many times, I don't know which
On a
is
slash
the-
chord, yes.
Which is the bass and which is
That's always the bass, the bottom one.
It's
And you
actually backwards, right? Backwards. I always think about it like, this is like on my left-hand side.
Oh,
I mean, that's what I think about it.
Okay.
Kind of like a mirror.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's just, yeah, it's kind of
Different,
opposite.
you know.
You would think the way it's laid out, you would do the E here and the C here, but it's the other way
right.
around.
Well, I always think of that as the bottom, so, like it's
Oh, the bottom,
underneath the
yeah,
bottom.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the bass, yeah. But let me just show you what that means in practical terms when you're playing. When I play a C, I've got to grab a guitar, the piano hates me at this point. That's okay, that's a C chord. Here's a C chord with E in the bass. You hear the difference? It's still a C. But the 3 is now in the bass. Or if I did this, that's the 5 in the bass. Still a C chord. The reason that you do inversions, I should show you this while I'm hidden here away from the keyboard, is for voice, what we call voice. That's okay. Oh, thank you very much. That's great. It's like, if I wanted to go from here to a G chord, I don't necessarily want to do, right? I want to go smoothly, so I go. I'm still playing a G chord, but I'm playing the 3 in the bass now. It's so that my bass line can go down smoothly, stepwise, instead of being angular like this. I'm going. What I did there is, like the last part was chromatic away. In the bass. First part is the C major, and I went to G over B, which would be written G/B. Still a G chord. There's nothing has changed about the G chord. And the next one, A minor, root position, G in root position. Now I'm modulating, I'm going to D over F sharp, because D sharp is not in the key of C, right? So I'm modulated out of it. Now I'm going back again to like a D minor over F, then to E, I'm modulating again. When I say modulating, I'm going non-diatonic. So that's C again. You see how the bass line works? That's why you do inversions of the chords, so that you can have smooth voice leading on the bass line, and not just on the bass line, but also on the upper extensions. The reason it's so important in the bass is that the bass is determining like what is happening with the quality of the chord. Like the voicing is like, you can make, like this is a C chord, this is a C chord, you know, anything like that, that's a C chord. They happen to be inverted, but if I were, let's do it with an A because I can do the open notes of the guitar. That's still all an A chord in root position because this is my lowest note. But you see, now it's a voicing thing. I'm deciding which notes I want to put where up on top of it. So that becomes an issue for voicing. And voicing is something that you can do a lot of things with. You can put one voice even an octave above another voice, or bury it like a fifth above or below, or whatever. You can put those other notes wherever they happen to sound best. So when you're talking about voicing a chord, you're not necessarily talking about inverting it. You're talking about the arrangement of the notes other than the bass note.
Of course, when you mean smooth transitions, I noticed that some songs, which we're in church, we're talking about worship songs, they may start at a C over E.
Yes.
It's not really a C and then you go to the C over E. They
That's
start
right.
with that.
Oh, you absolutely
Yeah.
start like that. Like if you wanted to go to F.
Yeah.
So, you know, so C's
That's
still
how it
in one
started, yeah.
chord, but it doesn't start with that in the
It
root.
doesn't start with the root, yeah.
Right, exactly. But then you get that smooth bass going from the E to the F.
Right. Yeah, it sounds better, you're right, it does sound better when you do that and go to the F, because it
Yeah.
just sounds cool.
It's smoother. And you don't, in rock and roll and a lot of music like that, you don't necessarily want to have smooth voice leads. Like you want to play, like rock music, I mean, the way that I learned it was just like, it was very, that's all. I'm not going, you know, I'm not inverting that chord like that. You're just playing root. Like we talk about power chords. That's angular movement in the root. That's not playing inversions. That's just going to the root of the note like that. And that's a powerful sound. I mean, it's a very like kind of sound. Voice leading is more like for when you want things to sound pretty and you want the individual voices to actually have their own lines. You would do something like that. You would invert the chord. So I will just go on to say that however many notes that you have in a chord, you have that many inversions. So like in our regular C major, our C, E, G, you have two inversions. The first one is called the first inversion when it's on the 3, and the second inversion when it's on the 5. So C over G is the second inversion of C major. What's that? There's a lot of things to learn about harmony. And a lot of it, like I said, is if you hear it when you're listening to music, if you can kind of think, wow, it sounds like the bass is stepwise, it's not jumping around like that. If you can hear that, if you can hear smooth transitions in the melody. So we talked about inversions and voicings. There's not just one A chord. I mean, there are thousands of A chords. You can do them in any kind of different ways. And nowhere is that more evident than in classical music, where certain instruments are playing way up here, there's some playing down here, and they're all playing parts of the chord. But the composite effect is like phenomenal. I mean, it's so much huger than what we could even do on a keyboard or a guitar. To hear that, those sub basses down here, and the middle, you know, the lower mids, the mid-range, the upper mids, the high end. Then all of a sudden you've got a chord that's got like maybe 20 or 30 notes, a lot of them being doubled, but that voicing it's incredible. It's an incredible thing to hear, and there's so many different variations of that. It's still an A chord. You know, I mean, if you were to pare it down, that's all it is. But it's depending what instrument is playing the 3, which instrument is playing the 5, where's the octave doubling happening, you know, all of that kind of thing. Okay, I'm going to take some questions now because I want
You just threw out a term octave doubling? What is
Yes,
that?
an octave is
Yeah.
you know what an octave is? Yeah. It's octave doubling,
Oh, okay,
is
so
just
you
doubling the note an octave higher.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, which happens a lot in classical music.
Happens a lot in Chrome.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. Yeah.
Yeah, so practically, Chris, if we're here in putting it in practical, how we do here things at
Yes.
church, right?
Mhm.
Word charts and such.
Yeah.
If I'm a guitarist and I see a C over E, do I necessarily want to play that C over E, or depends on how the structure of the song, the genre we're playing, or, because sometimes to me, sometimes it may not sound
Right.
right sometimes, because
Right.
you got the bass player doing the E, you got the
Exactly.
keyboard player doing certain things.
My rule of thumb with that is always what part I'm playing. If it sounds good for me to do that, I'll do it. If it sounds good, just let the bass player handle it, that's fine too. Because what Percy's saying is that in a band context, if you see a C over an E, generally the bass player is taking care of that. He's the one playing that note right there. So his question was, do I have to play that note in there? And my answer is that it depends on what part it is that you're playing in there. If I'm doing an arpeggiated part and it's a nice little C over E to F to G over D or something, I will play the E because it will sound good to me. Because it might sound weird if I'm playing on my A string, playing the C on the 3rd fret while the bass player is playing the low E. That might make it muddy sounding,
Yeah,
you know? And so I would either choose to double what the bass player is doing or just stay out of his way. Yeah. So, and we used to make fun of people that came in. We had a studio. No, I don't mean that at all. But people that are soloists, that play just the keyboard and they're what they do musically is they sing and they play the piano by themselves, are very active down here because they're filling everything up. And you know when you've heard a piano soloist, this is all over the place where they're playing. Well, in a band context, that doesn't work because you're walking all over with the bass players and it just makes it muddy. These frequencies, as you obviously know, are harder to distinguish down here than these guys up here. And that has to do with frequency. That's the frequency that we played at. So if you have a piano player who's really happy with the left hand, and a bass player, they're like, whoa. So we would just say, when they were recording with the band, is just sit on your left hand. You know, that makes everybody happy, makes the bass player happy. Yeah. So there's a lot of kind of things like that to look out for when you're playing music with other people, not just when you're doing stuff by yourself. You know.
Get along pretty well.
Yeah, you get along. That's right. There's no conflicts.
Plays well with others. No?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's true. So yeah, just to recap then, that's just the inversions part of it. I want to just do one more thing here before we leave tonight, and it's something that I'm just going to build on something that we've already done. And we've talked about 3-part chords, which is triadic, and now I want to talk about 4-part harmony. 4-part harmony is different in the sense that not only are we adding a new tone, which by the way is the 7th scale degree, that's what we're adding. Because,
So
go ahead. Yes.
when you do that, when you add the 7th, like you told us that these chords are C, D minor, E minor.
Yes.
So do we just add a 7th to all these if we
Yes.
add all 4 of them? Okay. So
Yes,
just-
but the kinds of 7ths they become are different.
Okay.
They become different kinds of 7ths. It's absolutely right. This becomes a 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7.
7th.
Because when we're making it, if you see, every time we're adding on to the next interval, we ended at the 5 here, and then to add the extra one on to make it 4-part, we add the 7, because that's the next step. So starting with C, which is the 7th of C? Yeah. That chord sounds like this.
Oh, uh-huh.
You hear the difference?
Big difference.
I lift that out. So my next third. That would be my next third. You see how the chords are getting taller? It's not this anymore. That's actually a 9, a C major 9. Because I'm adding the next third. That one, not a good sound. I'm going to stop here while I'm ahead. That's a C major.
You have to use your feet.
Yeah. But anyway, I was adding tones to it. Now every time, like even with the 4-part harmony, I'm not becoming non-diatonic. It's still diatonic. It's still in the chord. And also, I'm just going to say that when I added that extra D note on top and I made it a 9, that was what I'm doing there is called an embellishment. There's a difference between altering a chord and embellishing a chord. And the difference is an embellishment is a diatonic tone and an alteration is a non-diatonic. Which makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, you're going outside of the key to grab a
It's
note.
altering.
Yeah, it's altering. And it's also, it's not only altering the sound, it's altering the function of the chord. An embellishment doesn't alter the function of the chord. So if I play an A sus2 instead of just a regular A chord, it's just taking the place of the A. It's not doing anything different. It's still functioning as the A chord. But if I took the A chord and I made the 5 the A, which is, in this case, is an E, and I moved that up a half step to an F, now I'm making an augmented chord. And that's changing the way that chord functions. Does that make sense? Okay.
You're running into the double chord. You're kind of like
Yes.
extending you're doing playing them 2 chords.
Correct.
Like-
Yeah, and in 4-part harmony,
Mhm.
that's absolutely right. Yeah. I'm gonna cover that too, just as like we did when we were talking about 2 intervals on top of each other. In 4-part harmony, we're talking about 2 chords on top of each other. And the way, no, this is actually not that difficult, because if you look at it, this is our first chord right here in C. Look what our next one is. It's just like, you know, that game where you circle the words, you see them? That's what that is. So we have the C, E, the G, and then the E, G, and the B. So we have a C major chord and an E minor chord, and they share 2 notes in common. So all 4-part harmony is superimposing one triad on top of another. And the rule still goes for this, because if you'll notice, the first triad that we have is a major triad, the second one's a minor triad, and it makes a major sound. You see, if we move on to F, it would be D, F, A, C. This is a minor triad, and this is a major triad. Just like it worked before in intervals, it works the same way when we're creating the chords. Qualitatively, major 7s have a more jazzy sound. You'll notice that. The B note that I played in C major 7 has, to me, has a softening effect on the chord. It's kind of like, yeah, it's major, but it's got that in it too, right? That E minor triad, that's what's causing that. That's the softening part of it. Like in D minor, well, it's a minor, but it's not that kind of minor. It's this kind of minor, because this is in there. Because minor 7th chords generally don't have the same kind of, what I call the same kind of bite as what a normal minor chord does. And that's because that major triad is interacting with it. Major always wants to take over minor. And major generally is the stronger sound. It's stronger than minor, and I think that's partly the reason they call them major and minor. When you introduce the major 3rd into a chord, you're introducing a very, very potent note. Like, let's give you an example. This, well, if I play it right, that's a C and a G. If I just play that, it's kind of a neutral sound. But when I do this, wow, all of a sudden, to me, that just becomes like almost like saccharine. You know what I mean? It's like sweet. It's, that note is very powerful. This is less. That's a suspension. So is this. This.
And anchors it.
Yeah. Once you hear the 3, the chord's given away. Yeah. Because if you're playing in a band context and you're just going like this, it could be, it doesn't have to be this, it could be this. See how it's happening there? That's minor, that's major. But the 30 gives it away. So a lot of times, especially in the worship music that we do now, there's an ambiguity between whether it's major or minor. And it's a cool sound because your ear isn't all of a sudden, I mean, the music I grew up with many years ago was all like either major or minor, and you just like that, and you just have that sound.
I'm trying to follow
Okay,
over here. Okay, so, in the next one, would the E, G, B be minor?
Yes, it would be, because our first chord, the first chord, just like in intervals, the first interval is a major to a minor third. This is also minor to a major.
So the 3-note chord is a triad, what would a 4-note chord be?
It's
called?
still a triadic harmony. It's,
Okay.
yeah. A triad just means that, you're right, it means 3 notes, but this is still triadic harmony because it's working in thirds.
So
It's
it's
just,
not a quadrant.
no, you would just call it 4-part harmony. Yeah. And generally, SATB in choir, soprano, alto, tenor, bass is generally 4-part. So that's one of the reasons I'm introducing. I mean, triadic works well too. If you double a bass or you double a soprano, but this is 4 distinctly different notes. So how about our next guy? What triad is this? How about this? Yeah. So F major 7 is the FAC triad and the ACE triad, which is the minor triad. Now this one's different. Okay? Because that's major, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is this though? Hint.
Diminished.
It's diminished. Mhm. So now we have a major triad and a diminished triad. What do you think chord that makes in the 7th? Very, very, very powerful chord called a dominant 7th chord.
Because this is the dominant.
That's the dominant 7th right there, yeah. But it's not F sharp. If it were F sharp, it would be G major 7. But it's a half step down because it's still satisfying our rules. So now you have a chord, not major 7, dominant 7. Almost all blues, a lot of jazz, a lot of rock and roll is based on the dominant sound. Actually, where the 1 chord is actually a dominant chord. Can't do it on piano. Like this. Like in blues, for instance, like in, you hear that sound? That's the dominant 7. So that's a very powerful sound in music. It occurs naturally on the 5 chord in any key. And it's also, I'm going to just give you a little bit of theoretical knowledge about it. The reason that it's so powerful, it's also a very unstable chord. If you hear it by itself, it's unstable because there's things happening in here that don't happen in another chord. And the thing that happens is between the 3 and the 7 within that chord. That's the interval of a tritone. And what a tritone is a flatted 5th. So, which I probably already told you about, this is the interval that they wouldn't allow in the medieval times because they thought it was epidemic. Yeah. That interval right there. That's what makes the dominant 7th the sound that it is. So you have, but it's this. like if you were playing a progression, you could, actually in a blues progression, you could do the whole thing, just 2 fingers and just 2 frets. Right? Here's the 5. 1. With the tritone. Yeah. It sounds like?
Sounds like metal.
Oh. It's like, and then you would go to the D7. That's just those 2 notes. A, E. Crazy, right? Yeah. Just within that, it's like a little chromatic thing. You can do that. Because, and that interval, of course, is very, very unstable. It always wants, it's constantly wanting to go somewhere. But that's part of what makes, like, blues music, I mean, to me, gives it that power, that passion. It's an unsettled kind of, you know, it's just, you know, it just kind of feels that way. I mean, and I love it. I just love it. I mean, but the whole concept is not anymore on basing it on like pretty triadic harmony. You're basing it on the dominant 7th.
So if you see that in like sheet music,
Mm-hmm.
could that be written as D diminished or D dominant 7, like
You-
on the sheet music?
It can. If you got guitar chords on top of it, it would be written as a G with a 7 after it.
Oh,
Yeah.
the G with the 7.
Yeah. If you were actually sheet printed music with the notes in it, they wouldn't tell you that.
Oh.
But if you were analyzing it, you came to that chord. If you saw G, B, D, and F in some permutation like
So
that.
like the piano, say piano music too, because I buy a lot of books with chords
Okay,
and stuff.
right.
So could it say like B diminished or B dominant 7?
And
That
would-
B, D, F?
Yeah, that's the diminished triad within the G
I mean,
chord.
if I see that, would it be written like that in the music itself? B diminished or B
You-
dominant 7?
You mean the actual chord, if it were written like that, yeah, it would be written
Yeah,
like,
written in the
yes.
music.
Yes, it would be a B with a circle.
When you say written.
Circle is the diminished,
Yes,
so that was my
yes.
next question.
Yes.
So circle is
You're talking about the
a
notation.
notation.
Yeah.
Or B circle.
Yeah, the notation, notative wise, this is a B diminished. Yeah.
So if before we leave, you could go a little bit over notation.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
I see stuff and I'm not
Yeah.
quite sure what all the stuff
Okay.
is, and I'm
Okay.
supposed to play it,
Yeah,
but
let's do it.
I don't really know, what all the.
I don't want to waste any more sheets. I'll try to do it within this broad.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Okay,
We
see you,
appreciate it.
Sebastian. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, if you just see a regular chord, I'm going to show you some different types of notations.
Okay.